All right, we are at the floor of MWC 2024. Having my esteemed panel here. We are at this cusp of transformation. This is a decade where all of the telecom and the core network is being completely transferred and completely transformed. This is the year in which all of the exciting changes from both 5G, generative AI, and the evolution of networks is all coming together. Now, that's the industry which transformed how we work. Now, this is the industry which transformed how we communicate with our people. This is the industry how it changed how our children go to school. And this is the industry how healthcare is completely transformed as well. So today, my esteemed panel here, we're here to discuss an amazing set of both business and technology leaders in terms of future of networks. So with me, I have Mark Ruan, who is the Chief Network Officer of Dish Networks. And we have Jeff Hollingworth, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Rakuten Symphony. Margaret Rooney McMillan, who is the Vice President of the Integrated Partner Solutions and Hyperscalers. And we have Martin Zimmerman, who's the Chief Technology Officer of CommScope. All right. So with that, let us start in terms of our first question. Jeff, I'm going to have you go through the first question. Now, the combination of both generative AI or AI and 5G, how do you see that kind of evolving the networks of the future?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Let me lay a foundation that says maybe that AI is going to affect us in two different ways. Some of it's going to be the same in every industry, and some of it's going to be special to our industry. I think what we're seeing in Rakuten as the group and Rakuten overall is AI is a great augmenter of what we can all do, and it doesn't matter what you do. And as long as the AI has been trained in your domain and your context, it can double the amount of code you write. It can make you a better marketer. It can make you the knowledge base of an engineer much higher. But it's always got a human there. That's what we believe. We believe it's very good in the sense of almost being a mentor, expert mentor to people, and people coming up to speed fast. That's one aspect. Then more specialized to our industry. Our industry is tremendously complicated. Now, it's complicated for a reason. I think we quite enjoy its complexity sometimes. We haven't had an ability at this point to be able to really ask our operations or our network anything other than anything other than answer questions. So it's more the case of get me this data. I need to look at it because I know what I'm trying to see, but I'm not sure. I think what we're already starting to see is the ability to ask higher level questions that are more kind of outcome questions. So why aren't there more net adds on my network? What could I change to actually do that? Why was my target and my goal? Yeah. So I think the journey we're on is actually being able to lift up the intelligence based on the person asking and have the system actually respond in a much more intuitive way.
Yeah, great response. And you're absolutely right, Jeff. We live in an extraordinarily complex environment with our core networks. And to simplify it, I think some of these technologies will essentially help our engineers, whether it's L2, L3, L4, or the design itself. Margaret, wanted to get your thoughts on the same.
Sure. So from a network perspective, right now we carry over 600 petabytes of data on an average day. So from a network perspective, we absolutely see that continuing to grow and expand as companies continue to think about GenAI initiatives and how they want to roll them out. So from that perspective, we absolutely see the network 5G expansion continuing to grow and the dependency on the need for that 5G capability to be out there and available for that kind of response time. From an AT&T perspective, similar to you, we're on the journey, right, of how do you deploy this and how do you make the best use of what you can from that GenAI capabilities that exist today. So from our perspective, we've created our own proprietary Ask AT&T. So again, to keep it within AT&T's boundaries, we've built out a GenAI capability that's really focused on a few core principles at first, clearly coding. So we've already seen a 30% improvement kind of in our coding. But also, as you think about network improvements, we're starting to see sort of our network service representatives being able to respond more quickly to questions and be more intuitive to what is being, asked and concerns, around what the issues are. So we're starting to see the beginning green shoots of this, and it's really going to grow based on where we see more need from our employees on this front. So we've actually started a forum within our chief data office where all of our employees can submit areas of interest. Like, what if we did these types of things? So we have like a pipeline of 500 ideas. So the idea is continue to take those where it makes sense, expand them. Where it doesn't, park them for a future date. Yeah.
That's great. Mark, question for you. How do you see the network slicing as well as edge computing with the combination of GenAI? How do you see that transforming the industries which we touch?
Well, I think, you said it. It's knowledge that is going to be specific to use cases. And if you combine that with slicing, slicing maybe is overused, but sort of private instance, a VPC. There are many ways to describe it, but then you can adapt to your use case, and then you can make the full use of generative AI because you can train it, you can use it. So that's the combination. And you said it before, we're lucky because we are coming at a time where we have AI, but we also have the cloud, which is enormously capable, and we also have the 5G. So, it should. We would have no excuse not to ways to deliver new services, right?
Martin, your point of view from network slicing and edge computing, along with 5G and GenAI, how do you see the impact to the industries which we touch?
So I look at it from the perspective of CommScope being a provider of the components for building the network. And I think the critical thing we're looking at is how do we get better and faster at designing the components, not for the perspective of component performance, but from the perspective of network performance. So there's a lot of data out there. And, when I walk around here and talk to the various providers of solutions, what I see is that we're really getting to the point where there's enough computing power out there to be analyzing situations in real time and figuring out how to make the entire system better. And so I think it's been done for a few years now that, a company like a Dish or an AT&T will go to their radio providers and say, here's a contract, you have to meet certain KPIs. What I see is we're going to get to the point where all the people that are providing components in the network will be judged to that same level of performance. And that's how you improve the network to the next level.
It's fantastic. In terms of, I always love it when you figure out a way, always take the network into the completely different level. And as I said before, I think this is the decade in which we're going to transform all of these things with a different set of innovations out there. Now, Jeff, question for you. In terms of the adoption of 5G and some of the other elements are associated with that, including GenAI, what are the challenges do you see in the market?
The challenges? That's a very good question. I think the first thing we should do is acknowledge that we're actually day zero of a massive paradigm shift. And it's really hard to see it when you're in day zero. But I think we'll look back at this period the same way as we looked back at 2007 being the start of Web 2.0 apps. And if you go back, before the web apps and the smartphones, everyone thought we'd fixed everything and everything was normal. Everybody changed. Leaders changed. The world was tremendously disrupted. 15 years earlier, actually connectivity, the internet was the big thing. And some people see it and some people don't see it. And if you see it when it starts to explode, that normally means you're too late. So I think we need to embrace that the right way of thinking previously is not really the way we need to think. Now, you couple that with massive complexity of these systems. So even from our operational day-to-day, if you're trying to do it the old way, I mean, both of us have operational teams that are tiny compared to the traditional way. If you're not going to that kind of level, at least as a goal, you're going to struggle to compete, because we're running businesses and you have to adopt the new technologies, and we as an industry have to adopt them as quickly as possible. I think if you're in an existing business, as said, then it's different challenges, but you have existing revenue, so you have a window to survive on that. But I think it's going to be fascinating. The whole way that you interact with services is going to change, but it's very hard to predict that unless you're involved in it, doing it. I don't think, by the way, to Mark's comment, I don't think we have it. If Telecom is not changing what it does in this window, shame on Telecom. Give me a break. Let's stop trying to take a piece of yesterday. Why don't we look forward and think about the opportunities around how do we make AI safe? How do we reduce fraud? How do we stop deep fakes from causing interesting elections in 6 months' time? That would be interesting.
It's fantastic response, although today we won't be talking about elections here today for all practical purposes. Well, maybe privately we'll talk more about that, Jeff. So, Margaret, what are your thoughts in terms of 5G adoption and AI? What are the challenges do you see?
Sure. I mean, I think to echo what he said, I mean, ultimately, everyone is going to have to move into this new era. And I think it's going to, at some point, have to be balanced, right? As we all do, right? As you think about ultimately what is going to drive business value. And what we're seeing initially in those are, like I just quoted, we're seeing 30% improvement in coding. We're seeing changes that can be made in the network differently than we've done historically. And so as you think about those, there's just that balance between how to embrace it within the network and as well as with your customers, but then how do you also make sure that you're looking at it and making sure that the right return is going to happen as well. So that's really what we're focused on in AT&T, as well as trying to help our customers through this journey, because we're at ground zero in trying to evolve this. And so I think there's a whole lot of lessons to be learned here over the next few years. But this technology is not giving us a lot of time. As we've historically seen, right, the technology leap here is going to happen even faster than we've historically seen in previous history.
Yeah, so the challenge is there, but the fun is there too. I mean, it's very exciting. We're all technologists. I mean, it's so complex. It's a lot of fun. The other thing that makes me be very positive, we suffered a bit through the 5G, but now what we see, you heard it across every place here, we see the AI going to the data. We see the intelligence going, and this is us. The data is through our networks. So I think we have a role to play where we didn't have the role to play in some of the pure cloud things in the past, but now it's, you want to connect to the cars, you want to connect to the robots, we will be at the table, right? We have to win it, but I think it's good because then maybe we have a chance to monetize better and take a bigger share of the ecosystem, which in the last few years and cycles, we suffered on that, right? So for me, this is positive. And I see everybody is starting to be excited about that. And then a few years from now, we say, we had a chance, did we take it? Or maybe we didn't take it, we'll see.
Martin, what are your thoughts? As Mark said, there's a big opportunity in terms of monetizing, but at the same time, in terms of adoption of 5G and some of the use cases have always been a challenge. I know you always have a different perspective on this. I would love to hear this.
Sure. From an infrastructure perspective, I think I see two classes of problems. So on the one hand, urban areas, 5G means new bands, new equipment. How do you get those into the existing setting without causing structural overload? And so doing all sorts of things to help with concealment, with reduction of wind load on products that might even still be the same size. Second problem, bridging the digital divide. Everyone we talk to has this question of how do we get more coverage to the rural areas? And technology-wise, you could say, oh, yeah, I know how to do it. But the question is, economically, how do you do it at a rate, in a way that allows you to get a good return on investment? So there is technology involved in that as well. It's solving a somewhat of a different problem.
Sense. Or question for you, in terms of, so we talked all of the wireless technology and the wireline technology. What about satellite communication? How do you think that is going to evolve the network of the future?
Well, I think as an industry, we're maturing where, I remember 15 years ago, satellite was saying, I'm going to replace terrestrial. And terrestrial was saying, oh, I don't need Wi-Fi and I don't need satellite. I think now as an ecosystem, we're starting to embrace the fact that the technologies complement each other. You need a bit of satellite for coverage, for security, for a lot of different capabilities, but it's never going to replace terrestrial. And terrestrial will never have the full coverage of satellite, and Wi-Fi will always be cheaper and indoor. And what I like about the evolution of 5G, that it's becoming kind of the anchor of this diversity, right? And satellite is one of them, but it's enriching, but it's not the one solution. It's just part of the ecosystem. And I think it's better.
What a great question for you. So with all of these different components coming together, wireless, wireline, the data flowing, and all sort of overload with AI components and everything, there's always a mix, right? More data, more exposure, more benefits, but at the same time, there's another side of risk factor as well. How do you balance these two? Just wanted to kind of get your perspective.
No, I think that is, in the forefront of everyone's mind is how are you going to balance the amount of data with the privacy and all that we need to do to respect that within our customers. And I know from a telecommunications perspective, we have a lot of very strict policies around privacy. And I think those are going to have to continue to be explored and well thought through, because this is a new age. And as we've historically seen, we've had a lot of help in this area around legislation and different areas in different countries thinking about it different ways. I think with the way that data is now flowing, I think there's going to have to be a more comprehensive look at how we look to support privacy, but in a way that makes sense with the technology that's being deployed, and look at it from both sides and come up with a pretty balanced view that will allow us to, again, protect the privacy of all of the citizens while at the same time being able to provide them the technology enhancements that they're looking for.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I think, the first thing I think we should remember, and it comes back to the data discussion that we've had. Let's take the analogy of humans. Humans make decisions without data, and they do it all the time in the business world. So sometimes you can go into a business and as a consultant and they want to adopt AI because it's going to change their business. And the first question you ask is, well, kind of, how do you make decisions today? And they say, well, we have presentation and a PowerPoint. And it's like, well, where'd you get the data from in that PowerPoint? Well, kind of comes from this person over here. We're not really sure. And you dig down, and we're actually making a lot of decisions today, more on instinct, experience. It's a lot more common than we might want to believe. Not so sure you want machines doing that. So the journey of having really good data to feed the intelligence and living in a world where you can, just like humanity, you can start to trust that person. You give a little bit more rope and a little bit more rope. I think that's what we've seen even in our journey with automation. We never tell operations people to adopt automation. We give them a recommendation, and then we say, after you've seen it 20 times and you feel comfortable, you click the box and that will go off and live its own life. And then there is, and I hate to bring this up, but there is going to be a legal consideration that we have here. I mean, there was a very interesting case with Air Canada where they employed a chatbot to answer questions on their behalf. The chatbot gave an answer. The customer kind of said, I want that. Then Air Canada said, no, well, that's not actually correct. But and they took Air Canada to court about it, and it was found that the chatbot was actually deemed to be the exact same as a human employee. So the liabilities there, you need to make sure you can trust your AI models to the same level that you can trust your human people.
Mark, question for you. I know you have some extraordinary innovation and thinking in terms of AI, and we have talked a little bit about it in one of our prior conversations about putting the whole telecom in a box. Talk to us a little bit about it. Where do you see that fitting into the networks of the future?
Well, I think we want to serve our customers and enterprises, right? Consumers, we've done an extraordinary job. There's more to do. But enterprises, they want services from us, and we have to help them simplify what we give them. We have a tendency, because we love our technology, to tell them, oh, you should be as knowledgeable as we are, and you should understand all these acronyms. We love them. We have tons. And they don't care. They have a business to run, right? So we have to bring to them the capability to distribute their data or get their data into their models in a kind of a black box, an autonomous manner, so that they say, yeah, it works, it's secured, I understand it, but I don't know what you're doing in terms of, I just know the output, I just know the SLA, I just know the safety, the privacy and everything, and you take care of the complexity. And that's what the hyperscalers have done. I mean, you remember the hyperscalers were saying, everybody can do IT, let us do it for you, so that you can run your business. I think that's where we are now. We need to go to the enterprise and say, you could do what we're doing on networking and everything, but let us do it for you in a simple manner.
So there you had it, our esteemed panel with some fantastic view into the future. What's coming next year? What's coming 10 years from now? And what are the different things that we're going to impact for the society, for our human lives, and how we work, right? So stay tuned. More to come. Thank you so much for your time.